Good evening, thinkers. Today's lesson is you will find the area of triangles. What we did in class today is we discovered the formula to find the area of a triangle. So let's review that really quick and let's just write our formula at the very top of your notes. So remember, the area of a triangle is just half of the area of a rectangle or parallelogram. So I have my base times my height, and then I take half of that and I divide it by 2. Another way we can write it is 1/2 the base times the height. You'll see it both ways. I would say for now, this might be the easiest way for this introductory lesson. Okay, let's look at a couple triangles. And if I take a look at this triangle, because the hardest part, I think, when we're finding the area of something is to find the height. So right now, I have nothing labeled. I have no right angles labeled. I kind of have to do my own thing. So if I needed to measure the area, I kind of would have to figure out what my base and my height were. Well, I'm going to turn my triangle facing so I have my flat side here and see how it's straight. So remember, if I were to stand it up, it would be flat. Okay? So that is going to be my base. So then to get my height, I have to take from the top here and drop a perpendicular line down to my base to make that right angle. And remember how we talked about that H being your height? So this would be my height. That's if my triangle is facing this way. Well, what if I wanted to do it a little bit differently? If I wanted to have my triangle facing this way. Okay, all I did was flip my triangle around to look a little differently. Well, now my base has changed. This is my flat part. So then I have to go to the very tippy top of my triangle and I have to draw that perpendicular line. So if I wanted to extend my base a little bit, I'd have to draw my perpendicular line down from there. That would be the height of my triangle. So then now here's my base, that flat part on the bottom, and then this one is my height, which is outside of the triangle because I didn't have any right angles in the triangle. Okay, so let's look at our first example. Looking at example 1, it says, find the area of the triangle. Well, I have to look and find that H. Okay, well, I don't see an H, but I do see that right angle. And if I flip my triangle this way, I kind of see that backwards H here. So this tells me that this one is my height. Okay? I also could have flipped it this way, and that one would have been my height. Either way would have worked. Okay, so then if this is my height, then that one makes this my base. Because remember, the height goes down and forms that right angle with the base. Okay, so now I have my base and my height labeled, and I just have to plug it into the formula. Area equals base times height divided by 2. So A equals my base was 6 times my height, which is 14, and divide it by 2. Now I want you to look at this and look at those common factors because I have a fraction, and this is going to make your multiplication a lot easier. I'm going to try to cut down this 14 to make it smaller. I don't really know my multiplication facts for 14, right? So if I take this 2 goes into 2 once, and 2 goes into 14 7 times. This is a lot easier to multiply than 6 times 14. So now what you have is the area is 42 millimeters squared. And we're still squaring it because we have 2 dimensions. So that would be the area of this triangle. Now let's look at our next example. Looking at example 2. Well, I have to find my height and I have to find my base. Remember, if I would have thrown in a number like 30 or 80 here, okay, you need to know that that's not the height of my triangle because that is not a perpendicular line down to my base. So looking at the triangle the way we have it, this number on the bottom, that's my B. And here's my H for height that lands on the base. That's my H. So now we've got to plug it into the formula. Area equals base times height divided by 2. area equals 60 times 50 divided by 2. Once again, I would like to cross cancel because that's going to make things a lot easier. So if I'm cross canceling, I will do 2 into 2 once. It goes into 60 and 50, but I'll just put it into 60. It goes in there 30 times. So now all I have left is 30 times 50. Well, since I have some zeros there, I can just do 3 times 5 and get 15, and then I have to add those 2 zeros into my answer. So then my area is 1,500 inches squared. Take a moment, pause the video, and answer questions 1 and 2 in the On Your Own section. All right, welcome back. Now we're looking at a different kind of triangle. It's still a triangle, okay? We still have to find our base and our height. But this is a little bit different, okay? I need to kind of turn and figure out, well, what's my base and what's my height? Well, if I put my triangle to where that bottom part is flat, this would be my base. This part, that part that's forming that perpendicular line and making that right angle there, that's my height. Okay, if you look at that backwards H. So now when I plug it into my formula, I get the area equals base times height divided by 2. Area equals 10 times 10 divided by 2. Once again, let's look to cross cancel. Make it easier on us. 2 goes into 2 once, and 2 goes into 10 5 times. So all I have left is 5 and 10. So I get 50 yards squared. And that is the area for that triangle. Okay. Let's try our next example. And here is this triangle. Okay, once again, I'm trying to find that perpendicular line down to the base. So here is our H that's formed. So that 9 is our height. If you see that H that's formed. Okay, and then this 16, which is the bottom of my triangle, that is my base. Okay, remember, if we flipped this around, we could have a different height and a different base, but we weren't given those measurements. Okay, so let's plug it into our formula. Area equals base times height divided by 2. Area equals 16 times 9 divided by 2. If you look, 2 can go into 16, so I'm going to cross cancel. 2 goes in here once, 2 goes into 16 8 times. So then my area is 8 times 9, which is 72 meters squared. Okay, take a moment. Reflect on the area of those triangles, and we are going to move on to example 3, which is a little bit more difficult. Now we have a word problem. Okay, it says, the base and height of the red butterfly wing are 2 times greater than the base and height of the blue butterfly wing. How many times greater is the area of the red wing than the area of the blue wing? Well, this tells me that my red one is bigger than my blue one. So this is my diagram of my red butterfly, and this is of my blue. Wow. So it says the base and height of the red butterfly wing are 2 times greater. So if I'm looking at here, the base of my red, I don't know, but I know it's 2 times greater than the base of my blue. Well, my blue base is 2, so I know that this one must be 4 because it's 2 times greater. Okay? The height of my blue is 1, so I know that the height of my red must be 2 because it's 2 times greater. So now I need to see how many times greater the area is. Well, in order to do that, I need to find the area of both. So the area of my blue, okay, is 1/2 the base, which is 2, times the height, which is 1, all over 2. So then it is 1. So the area of my blue butterfly wing is 1 centimeter squared. So now let's find the area of the red. Well, it's 1/2 the base, which is 4, times the height, which is 2, all over 2. Well, now I can cross cancel those out. So the area of my red is 4 centimeters squared. And I want to know, well, how many times greater is my red than my blue? Well, what times 1 will get me to 4? 1 times 4 will get me to 4. So I know that the red one is 4 times greater. Okay. I could also have done 4 centimeters squared divided by 1 centimeter squared to get me how much greater that is, and it is just 4 times greater. All right, looking at our next example. Okay, in this example, we have to kind of create our triangle. So it says a triangle has a base of 2 inches, and a height of 3 inches. So I have a base of 2 and a height of 3. It says the base and height of a second triangle are 4 times greater than that of the first. Well, if I know this is 4 times greater than that, then this is 2 times 4, which is 8. And my height then, this has to also be times 4, which would then be 12. Okay, so this is a bigger triangle than that one. They're not drawn to scale, so don't take that into consideration. Now it says how many times greater is the area of the second triangle? Well, I need to find the area of the first. So the area of the first is 1/2, so 2 times 3, the base and the height. Well, I know that. I can cross cancel. So the area of my first triangle is 3 inches squared. Okay, now the area of my second triangle, area equals 8 times 12 divided by 2. Cross canceling, 2 goes into here 4 times, and 12 times 4 is 48. So area is equal to 48 inches squared. Okay, now I'm looking at my 2 areas. My smaller triangle has an area of 3 inches squared. The larger triangle has an area of 48 inches squared. Well, you could think in your head, well, what times 3 will get me to 48? Okay. Or you can simply write it as a ratio to see how many times larger it is. So 48 inches squared over 3 inches squared. Inches squared and inches squared are going to cancel each other out. And 48 divided by 3 is 16. So this triangle here is 16 times larger than that one. The area is 16 times larger. And if you look at it, it makes sense because I changed each dimension by 4. And 4 times 4 is 16. If you go back and look at this one that we just did a little bit ago, okay, I changed each one of these dimensions by 2. So 2 times 2 is 4. Okay, so why don't you go ahead and pause the video, take a moment to answer those last 2 on your own questions, and don't forget to write a question at the very bottom. What are you still not understanding? Make sure you ask that question. What don't you understand? Or maybe ask a question that you can see if your classmates can answer. Good luck and have a good night.